Hello, my name is Rhonda Pownell and I'm the Mayor of Northfield. It is Wednesday, July 18th, a day after our regular City Council meeting. I'm introducing a presentation our City staff delivered as part of the meeting last night. City Administrator Ben Martig and Public Works Director David Bennett gave this presentation to the City Council, citizens in attendance, and for those watching the meeting live streamed through our City website. This presentation answers questions and provides a deeper dive into a fire in our Biosolids Building at the wastewater treatment plant on May 29, 2018. The fire was one of 3 significant unrelated issues at our wastewater treatment plant this year. Here are a few important takeaways for all of our viewing audience, whether you are a community member or a neighbor in our region. First, findings in the fire investigation report have ruled out foul play, operational negligence, and mechanical and electrical issues. The only potential cause is a chemical reaction with the biosolids product. Secondly, the city has ordered new and improved process equipment. We believe this equipment is superior, provides for 20-year growth of the city, less time for operations, and it's better for our environment. Thirdly, engineering is reviewing and preparing plans for the installation. They will do a complete review of fire, smoke, and alarm systems for the project. The new equipment will be installed this winter. Fourth, the city will be recommending updating the facility plan to include risk assessment and potential solutions. Fifth, the city will be requesting an independent operations study evaluating our wastewater plant policies, procedures, and best practices. And sixth, the city has reported all incidents to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for their review and investigation. The city is taking action. City staff are working with the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust on the process of procuring equipment through the claims. City staff are preparing reports and asking for council consideration of wastewater plant related items. We are asking and addressing questions from the public. After insurance, the city's cost is currently estimated at $200,000 for replacement and repair for new equipment. The range of actual costs is $5.1 to $6.2 million. Many of these equipment costs were scheduled for 2021. Equipment replacement now has been accelerated to happen yet this year. These improvements support our initiatives of good stewardship in the areas of air, water, and energy efficiencies, and better serve Northfield and our surrounding communities. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Public Works Director David Bennett. His contact information will be on the screen at the end of the video. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Glad to be here tonight, and we do have Justin Wagner here also. He's our utilities manager for questions that may come up through the presentation. So we were here last week when we really recapped the 3 incidents that we've had at the wastewater treatment plant. Again, I'll run through those. So at the beginning of the year in January, we had a plug failure in our biological aerated filter building. So that is the building kind of in the lower right. And then we had the main focus of tonight's discussion would be the fire in our Biosolids Building, which is on the western portion of the site. That was in May 29th. And then more recently, we had the broken pipe in the basement flooding in our pretreatment building. So again, this is our sludge processing building. So really what happens is when water comes in, it goes through our pre-treatment building, then it goes to the biological aerated filter building, and then it goes through our UV, and then it's out. So in the pre-treatment building, all the sludge that's built up, it's sent over to this building for processing. And in this building is where we essentially squeeze the water out of the solids, and then it's stabilized through a lime stabilization product, and it's heated up, and then it turns into a dirt-like substance, and that is eventually put into storage and then hauled out and spread. on local farmer fields. So on May 29th, it was a typical day at the wastewater plant. We were operating the biosolids process. So typically, we're doing the pressing and this production operation 3 times a week. We typically run about 10 hours a day on this process. So we ran through that day. 3:45, we shut down the process. And then the equipment in there, the pasteurization vessel, we'll talk about that more. That's where the fire originated. Goes through a 1 to 3 hour shutdown process. So we shut down, we wash up, we clean up, is our typical process, and we exit the building. Within the Biosolids building, so there's no smoke or fire alarms within this building, and that'll be something that we'll be looking into. So that evening, the fire was in the evening, so around 9:26 p.m. we had the first alarm. It was phone line failure. So that is really the communication systems between our SCADA system and our building. So that continued. It just kept failing and failing. Then we had Biosolids, just all communication failures. Really believe these alarms are the fire is going on. We're having melting going on, and the lines are starting to fail. So the fire department was dispatched at 9:39. They arrived, right around 9:48. So they're on site. Staff arrived really similar to the same time the fire department did. At that time, they were in there working on the fire. The power was cut to the building. The ultraviolet disinfection process power is fed through that building. So that process was down for roughly 45 minutes. And then once the fire was extinguished, we were able to re-energize that process and get that back on. So we notified the duty officer of the pollution control agency related to that being down on the UV. And then really the fire department before midnight had the fire extinguished and handed the building back to the city at that time. So the city's insured through the League of Minnesota's Insurance Trust. The league hired Whitemore Fire Consultants to prepare the report. The report is attached and is included in the packet. So the fire marshal, 4 NAFers, did not investigate, did not look into foul play, so they did not start an investigation. So this is more tied to the insurance and trying to figure out what happened out there. So we know from their report that the fire is on so what happens is it goes on as the sludge comes over, it goes on a press and everything is squeezed out. From there, it goes into a process called a thermal blender where it's blended with the lime, and then it goes through the pasteurization. So at the end of the pasteurization vessel, where it drops onto a conveyor out to storage, that's where the fire origination point was. Their report indicated that they don't believe there was electrical. They looked to confirm that the process had stopped. The electrical was off to the system, so there was no electrical failures found at the time. The equipment was not on. The mechanical was reviewed. They didn't see any bearing or mechanical failures related to the fire, and really the only thing that they really could not rule out is that the product somehow caught the fire and started the fire at the end of that pasteurization vessel. We don't believe from an operational point that there was any negligence on behalf of our normal operations and how we operate the facilities, and we believe procedures were followed in terms of our shutdown and cleanup of the facility. Here's just a couple more pictures. So that's like the thermal blender, the rollers where there'd typically be a belt. The picture on the left that's like the media and the odor scrubber that's melted. So that would be, so the odor scrubber still runs because that component was on within the building because we have that also scrubs for the sludge tank that is outside. So we know that this is one of the items that is going to be replaced, but that's just an idea of what the media looks like in there. Again, at last discussion, we also talked about what we're proposing to do. So we've ordered the new equipment for the process. So equipment has been ordered. So this is the swing bioset process. There's really two processes. We believe that this is really the superior process that we want to move to. This is something that staff has been looking at. It's been contemplated as part of the facility plan in 2015 that was adopted in 16. So just to, we think when we looked at it, will provide the next 20 years of growth for the city. So we believe it'll operate less time with this new equipment, less energy uses, better for the environment, and really it's a 4 to 7 months delivery time. So really we're down. This process will be down 8 to 12 months depending on how fast and how we can get soon we can get the equipment ordered. So this is currently where we're at with funding related to the replacement of the equipment. So kind of the leftmost column, so the current cost, so this would be for the new equipment, is roughly $4,584,000. So to replace the process and the existing equipment, we believe it's around $484 million. And then the last column would be the estimated cost for that was identified in the facility study in 2015. Certainly that was at $3 million, and then inflated to 2021 would be like $3.4 million, but there's other items within that were not identified for replacement at that time. So a recap of the events. So with the pre-treatment building that we had, the most recent one in July, so we believe those costs are going to be between $25,000 and $45,000. The failure in the biological aerated filter building, that cost is pretty well final, around $175,000. And then this with the fire will be between $5 and $6 million. So the city, in terms of an insurance, the city is insured. We got a maximum out-of-pocket annual of $100,000. So we're above that. We've reached that point. So really anything that's not really covered in cost with the replacement of the equipment in terms of similar, right now we've identified the $100,000. So our out-of-pocket cost would be $200,000, and the rest would be covered by insurance. And there's really, with the pool and the type of insurance we have, there's really no experience modification, so we don't believe that we're going to be seeing a higher insurance. Certainly if this was something that was seen across a lot of cities, it's certainly something that could have impacts in the future. So where do we go from here? So equipment's getting ordered, we're getting the plans drawn up. So as part of that development of the design, certainly we'll be looking at that facility, and we'll be looking at, what type of alarm what's modern, what should we have in there for alarms? Should we have fire suppression? Should we have the smoke fire monitoring equipment, all in preparation of the installation of new equipment? We've talked about, because of the 3 incidents this year, that we look at an independent operational audit. So we look at bringing in somebody from the outside that really looks at more in depth at the plant policies and procedures, and just make sure that we're using best practices related to the facility. And then with the improvements, certainly with this process that was supposed to be replaced in 2021 being replaced sooner, would be re-looking at the facility plan and updating that. Not only looking at it from a equipment perspective, looking at it from a risk assessment, and seeing if there's ways that we can reduce and avoid risk for future issues and mitigation. So again, we still, each building is totally separate. We don't believe any of the failures kind of are redundant or are tied together. Certainly we want to do what we can to ensure, and we think we've identified some things that we're gonna be doing to make sure that we don't have events like this in the future, that we can do the best we can to try to eliminate those risks. We don't believe it's a result of staffing or management of the facility, and we don't believe that it's related to policies or procedures or anything that weren't followed on our end. The facility was upgraded in 2001, so certainly it's not a substandard. We've made a lot of investments out there from the plan, so there's been new well, new UV, new lift pumps, so there's been a lot of investments made in the facility, and we'll just need to continue to make those in the future. So where do we go from here? So we'll be discussing funding requests for updating of the facility study and the operational analysis. So that August 6th is our first really budget meeting for 2019. And then in September, we'll be back with an update on where we're at with the plans and potentially authorizing bidding of the installation of the equipment. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bennett. Questions from the council? Councillor Colby?
I'd like to say thank you for the tour that you provided to us. That was very helpful. And also, I wanted to say thank you to the staff out at the wastewater treatment plant. I was impressed. I can't talk for anybody else. I was impressed with some of the things they had to deal with after some of these equipment failures and during the fire. The fact that they were dealing with a smoke-filled building and that it took 2 hours for the fire department to put it out was impressive. But a number of questions. In your opinion, would the independent operational analysis help answer the question whether there should be fire alarms out there in at least some of the buildings?
I would say that may be more in just the code and the design. So from 2001, 2002, has there been any changes related to the code and the design of the facilities to at that time? I think it's something that we'll be looking at and asking, if it's not mandated and required, is it something that we should be considering and putting in and installing the facility? So I think that'd be probably more with our the designer of the facility, probably not quite tied to the operational side of it.
Councillor Colby, follow
Thank
up.
you. Well, with this new machine that you want, or a new system that you want to purchase, is that going to have this high calcium quicklime process? And will that be involved as part of that new system you want to purchase?
Yeah, so there's both processes that we've looked at, both use the lime. So both use the lime to create the heat to get to the quality to meet the requirements for the sludge to meet our permit. So both we will continue to use the lime moving forward.
Okay, so
Councillor Colby?
thank you. The essential ingredients that we believe caused this fire will be present in the new system.
Correct. So that would be one of the components. Yep.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? All right, Councillor
I
DeLong?
do, but it'll be quick and
Yeah.
goes towards this. I'm curious about the new system. Will it fit in the old building, or are we going to have to add on? And it's going to be more energy efficient and take less electricity. How is it going to do that and then still get up? We give it a little boost with a heater, don't we? Or do we let nature take its course?
I'll let Justin answer that.
So with the new system, it basically is a reaction vessel that is designed so that it actually, with the lime, it will meet the heating temperature on its own without any external elements. Basically, it's an insulated pipe. It's kind of the simplistic way of looking at it that gets it to that temperature and allows us to meet the pathogen reduction requirements of 30 minutes at that temperature. So
on that, maybe just to add quick, so in the existing one, there's big heating elements that are inside of that heat up, so those elements are not there in the new process.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Councillor
Yeah.
DeLong?
So when you say reactor, I might say combustion chamber, but it's a controlled environment.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Colby?
Okay. I thought the question had to do with the size of this new equipment And I think at least what I heard was, is this new equipment going to fit in the current building?
Yes, the equipment is designed so that it will fit in the existing building.
Follow-up question, Councilor Colby?
Yeah, thank you. The independent operational analysis, is that done by a specialized engineering firm? Who does that?
We are looking into like who would perform that. It might be a combination of administration, engineers, and like previous operators that would do that type of stuff. So we're figuring that. I don't have those exact answers yet, but that's something that we will get to council.
All right. An additional question,
Yes.
Councilor Colby?
I have to admit, I am really curious as to how many fires have occurred in the equipment that we currently have in the building where the fire occurred. And I have the same question for the new equipment you're proposing to replace, to use as a replacement. There's got to be some data on that out there.
I think certainly from the new equipment, that'd be something that we could look into to see if there's records in history. We do know that there's other plants that have had other type of instances, primarily not related to a similar type process where they have dryers and that type of stuff that potentially cause fires. So certainly the new equipment is something that we can look into. Existing equipment, we could see if there's any historical data on that. In terms of the pasteurization vessel, I'm not sure exactly in the pasteurization vessel, but something we could look into more.
Okay. Thank you.
Additional questions from the council? All right. Thank you so much for being here tonight and giving us this update on the wastewater treatment plant, particularly the Biosolids Building. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment. Thank you for the tour. It was very informative and well done. So thank you.
Thank you.